Welcome in. It is the official, and we have spent a lot of time talking about the 2023 class of late. We've gone over 2023 quarterbacks at length of all our visits to the Elite 11. We've started really digging into some other 2023 guys as they have been committing in droves here up until fall practice starting. But now with fall practice starting, I thought it would be fun for us to take a look backwards at the 2022 class that we put out our rankings and our projections in the fantasy football freshman guide that C2C put out, which you can still get for $20 and look at all the things we said about these guys in the summertime. But now they're putting on pads and they're actually hitting and in contact at their fall practices. And there's a few notable things. We want to just take a look back. Hey, were we right? Were we wrong? Pat ourselves on the back a little bit and also learn from maybe some mistakes. This is the official. So before we get started, I just want to remind everyone, if you're watching this for the first time, go check out our home site, campustocanton.com. You can get the aforementioned freshman guide there. You can also get a Deville guide if you're into Deville fantasy football, and also a college football guide. All of those are still $20, and they're still available. You can get them before the season starts if you still have some drafts going on or just want to see who the next stars are at the college level. Those guides will certainly help you get there. Of course, we also have all of our tools. We have all of our rankings, articles coming out, conference previews, betting previews, you name it. If it has to do with college football, we are putting out content related to that. So now that that's taken care of, we've got some guys who have put on or lost a little bit of weight since their time where we were looking at them as recruits. So what I wanted to do is, I'm a little older than y'all. There used to be a funny cartoon on the internet back when E-Bombs World was around and some of these other things that you guys, your little babies don't understand. But there was a cartoon called Homestar Runner. It's very funny. If you're watching this, you probably could remember this guy. But there was a phrase he would say, so good or no good. And so what we're going to do is play a little game here. On the weight changes from recruit to now, either on the team site or I know you guys have mined some news coming out about some of these freshmen and whether it's good for them or bad for them. So just so good or no good based on the weight I'm going to give you, and maybe a little soundbite on why that's good or bad. Let's start with UNC wide receiver Andre Greene. He's listed at 190, which is up 17 pounds, 10% of his body weight. He has increased heading into his first camp. So good and no good, Matt.
So good. He's been lighting up camp so far, and nothing but great news coming out about him. I was pretty high on him this summer. So,
well, he should definitely draw your eye because you are a big wide receiver guy on Twitter, and he is now becoming a big wide receiver. I have to say, hopefully this is not looking like a big L for me, but I was not very high on him. But yeah, the reports early are very good for Andre Greene. Jadon Blue, David, comes in. He was listed at 194, and then they updated it to 190. So good or no good, Jadon Blue's new weight?
I mean, this is no good, obviously. All the recruiting services had him at 205. When we were doing our rankings, that's the information we were operating on. To be down to 190, I don't know. We got catfished, I guess, but I don't know. I want to wait to see if they update these again in the fall. I've seen pictures of him. He looks he still looks like a running back. He doesn't look like a receiver or anything like that. Like, he has some density to him. So, but if he's 190, I might have to drop him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And still a good player, a good mover, but he was our running back too, I think. So the whole point was this guy moves this way 205. 15 pounds is a huge difference. Samuel Brown, Matt, comes into Rutgers. Dude's listed at 220 as an 18-year-old freshman. What do we think about Samuel Brown? I didn't have him that high in my rankings, but notable that a freshman is 220, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely so good. He's up. He was listed on 24/7, 195, so that's 25 pounds.
Woo.
I think on 3 had him at 200. So either way, he put on a bunch of work. The coaching staff has been praising him for his work effort, so that's something we'd love to see. At 200, we were able to get him over 21 miles per hour. So if he's even able to, hit close to that still, then it's a really enticing package of size and speed.
Yeah, and just, to throw in the fantasy angle at Rutgers, Greg Schiano, they would love to give a guy 20, 25 carries a game. So, he's in the right offense to be a sledgehammer. And like you mentioned, 21 miles an hour. You love that 220 and 21 miles an hour should be like a club. Like if you're 220 and you break 21, we should put you in a special club. Always worth noting. All right. I think this is a unanimous favorite of ours. Next on the list, Adam Randall, back from the ACL graveyard, fastest receiver at Clemson camp, and listed at 215, but David found a practice report, like a recent weigh-in, 230. Adam Randall, so good or no good? Do you want this guy that heavy, or is he going to be a tight end?
Yeah, this is both, I think. I think he probably added weight because he probably hasn't been doing a ton of conditioning because of his injury. Like, I'm guessing he'll probably get back down to like 220 or something. Like, he'll probably play at like 220. The fact that he recently ran the fastest of all Clemson receivers at 230 pounds, that just shows how much of a freak he is, not to mention recovering from that injury that fast. Like, the guy's insane. Like, we hope that he's A.J. Brown. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, don't get any bigger than that. Like, don't be a tight end. So, yeah, so good. It's both at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. The 230 is a little bit like, whoa, that is humongous. But then you counter that, like you mentioned, he's still fast. Maybe it's not maybe he's not AJ Brown. Maybe he's Megatron. Like, very exciting stuff from Adam Randall, though. Sticking with Clemson, we actually got a bunch of weigh-ins. I think, David, you found these. So Antonio Williams up to 192. Matt, so good or no good for the slot receiver, getting pretty big here.
Yeah, it's so good, definitely. That's for what he wants to be weighing at when he goes to the NFL. He's pretty much there. I think he's only listed at 5'11", 6 foot. That's all 192, maybe 200 flat. He doesn't need to be any bigger than that. So definitely something good. Perfect.
And I think he's going to start. I mean, I think he's going to see the field right away because they need his skill set. I'm going to take the next one. Cade Klubnik, much maligned for his slight frame coming out of high school, but already from 180 to 197. He is my QB1. I really like the guy. I've been drafting him in a lot of spots. Even expecting production, I think he can get on the field ASAP. I don't believe in DJU. I saw what I needed to see, and I'm not optimistic there. So, Cade Klubnik, so good. All right, Discord, if you are not in there, you should get in there. A lot of these sound little news bites and things were actually mentioned to us in the Discord. Then we kind of fact checked them and stuff like that. But we got a great community in there. So if you're watching this, you're not in the Campus to Kansas Discord, fix that ASAP. But Damian Williams down 10 pounds to roughly maybe 215 to 216. Is there improved agility? David, so good or no good? Damian Reed is losing weight.
I'll say so good for him because it sounds like he was pushing 230 at one point. And if you watch his tape, he does have really good straight line speed, even at that size. But he doesn't have a whole lot of wiggle, so I think this might help him maybe get a little lighter on his feet. So I think 216 is so good for him.
Nice. We got another guy lost a little weight. I think we touched on this maybe in a previous episode, but we'll mention it again here. Katron Allen at Penn State down to 211. Big wide receiver guy. He's not a big running back guy. Katron Allen, so good or no good at 211?
For him, I'll say so good. it doesn't really make me too much more enticed, but maybe he can move a little bit more functionally. That's really my big, drawback with him. I feel like he was a very clunky mover. So if he lost 10 pounds, whatever it is, I think that's great.
Okay. We're hoping this weight loss leads to a little more exciting movement skills. If it doesn't, we're in big trouble for Katron Allen. And then honestly, out of all these numbers, this might be the most shocking. Fellow Penn State commit Drew Allar, quarterback, listed at 242. David, so good or no good for Allar?
I mean, it's
That's huge.
good.
It's humongous.
He's so big. Yeah, I mean, it's good. He can take a beating for sure, and he's going to be plowing some dudes over once he leaves the pocket. So I would say, yeah, it's good, but we already know he was huge. So, I mean, I'm kind of lukewarm on it, I guess. But.
Okay, neither so good nor no good. All right, and finally, I think we got one we'll unanimously say is so good. Shout out Matthew Bruning from our website. He was the first guy I heard mention the name, but Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss is listed on the team website as 220. He was a recruit listed at 200, and we still liked him. Now he's listed at 220, and he is apparently tearing up practice. Matt, so good or no good, Quinshon Judkins? I don't think you need to think too hard on this one.
Yeah, definitely so good. I mean, he's a really fast player. He can actually move good laterally. And, if he's killing it at this added 20 pounds, it's just nothing but good to see.
Yeah, wheels up for Quinshon, I think, out there. Everyone loves Zach Evans. And Zach Evans is apparently still kind of like the first in line, the guy who's going to be the running back one. But Judkins apparently is already running kind of as the second back. And, Zach Evans has a history of missing games for one reason or another. So we could see Judkins making some waves here in the short term. All right, so let's switch now to some kind of news bites, reports, some practice things. Number one, and I put this number one because, again, very shocking, even though it's like 2 practices in. But there is reports out of the UGA camp. Andrew Paul is running ahead of Branson Robson in drills. Now, we talked about this before we aired. We said, what does that really mean? But Matt and I agreed that, football teams have systems, and typically the order of practice, drills, everything else kind of reflects the depth chart. And I think David's found Andrew Paul is running ahead of Branson Robson, and Branson Robson looks kind of slow. Now, you guys can both talk about this. This is a huge deal. Branson Robson, 5-star, like the running back one on a lot of services. Andrew Paul, 3-star out of Texas. We all liked him. He was a late riser, got a lot of P5 offers at the end and signed with Georgia, and now looking to make some big noise here. Do you care? Is this affecting you at all?
I feel like it's affecting me positively for Andrew Paul shares I do have. I pretty late in the process, Dave and I were talking about Branson Robson, and we stumbled on his stats from his senior year. They're really bad. His 5'6", 150-pound backup did just as good as he did, which is definitely not something you want to see. Only had 600 yards total, 5 touchdowns. Just not what you want to see from this supposed to be prolific running back recruit. And along with that, he's very tightly wound already just because of how he's built. He's so jacked. He doesn't move that well laterally. That's a big advantage that Andrew Paul comes in with. That he's around the same size as Branson, except he's faster and he can move laterally really well.
Sounds like he's just better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I prefer.
Wow. That is huge. I mean, it's such a big deal just because Branson Robson, people loved the guy. I had to respect his recruiting ranking, going to Georgia, all that seemed to line up. But I was a little bit hesitant, although I just was like, how can you not rank him high? But not great news. Not what you want to hear, at least, if you are invested in Branson Robson for C2C. David, DJ Allen and Jordan Hudson apparently are, looking like they will both start. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. We just have their names here on the sheet here. I think DJ Allen is running with starters. As Hudson, I know, has gotten rave reviews for his silky smooth route running already in camp. I may have to be forced to move Hudson up my rankings, and DJ Allen for that matter. What do you think? Are you excited about this? This confirms your priors?
Yeah, so Jeremy Clark, he covers TCU and he's done a really good job. I've been looking at his practice reports almost every day, and he brings up Hudson in pretty much every report, and he says he looks special, he looks super smooth, he runs crisp routes. It sounds like he's definitely going to be playing this year. He was an early enrollee, so he's got a bit of a leg up on DJ. I think DJ Allen just enrolled. Allen's been working at the X spot and Hudson at the Z spot, but I would say Hudson probably will have an earlier impact. And I actually moved Hudson up a little bit in my rankings. The other thing that influenced me a little bit was On3 has him as their wide receiver 2. If you click on the scouting tab on his profile, they actually have, and they saw him in person plenty of times, especially towards the end of the year in some of these All-American games. They have him compared to Jackson Smith and the Jigma. So, I mean, that's lofty. I don't know if he's that good, but it sounds like he's super smooth in person. And I definitely moved Hudson up, and I still like Allen quite a bit.
Yeah, I may have to take some L's on the TCU receiving class. I didn't see it. I didn't see what other people are seeing. Some guys I did see some stuff on also seem to be impressing early at Tennessee. Caleb Webb, we all like him. Just tremendous production in all phases of the game in his senior year, at least, and I think other years in high school. Squirrel Wright is a complete burner. And then Chaz Nimrod, another guy who got some nice praise from us. All impressing early at Tennessee. They brought in a nice receiving class. Like what they can do. Any other things you want to highlight from that, Matt?
I think you pretty much covered it. Really, there wasn't anything specifically talked about each. I think Squirrel White's been the biggest talked about freshman receiver there. Although Webb and Nimrod have both been performing well also.
Well, White just brings something to the table basically no one else has. I mean, just truly world-class speed. He's a small, of course. But when guys have something that no one else has, of course, they can plug in a little bit easier maybe because their skill set is not redundant. This is interesting. At UNC, we know it can be a very productive backfield. Of course, if you remember a few years ago, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, and now they brought in two pretty highly rated running backs, I think both within the top 10 in their class or so. Omarion Hampton and Petaway looking like the two best backs on the roster already. David, do you buy that?
I think so. I don't know if they're going to be it sounds like British Brooks is going to be getting the majority of the snaps to begin with. But honestly, Hampton and Petaway, it is Javonte Williams and Michael Carter all over again to me. Like those guys I like them a lot. And there's plenty of highlights you can see on their Twitter account. And they've been doing really well in scrimmages so far. I think they're for real. Yeah,
well, that would be super fun to have another backfield that could replicate Javonte and Michael Carter. Moving over just a little bit west in the state of Kentucky, Barion Brown, everybody knows he's really good, was a borderline 5-star for a while. He showed up in practice according to a report. You love to see anything nice. I mean, remember, these guys, this is not the same as an NFL practice report where some veteran did something. These are like 18-year-olds walking on the field. If they're doing anything special at all, it's really notable because they're so young and jumping up in skill, jumping up in competition. So even the fact Barion Brown showing up and looking good in practice is kind of confirmatory. But the real interesting guy is Dane Key. Now, he was a 4-star receiver. So he wasn't a nobody. But they're saying he's a starter. Matt, what do you think about Dane Key's starter as a freshman for Kentucky?
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting. It's not what I expected, although they aren't, loaded on, outside receiver right now. So he had the opportunity to do it, and, he's coming in and doing it. I still think he's a relatively one-dimensional player. He's more of a a downfield jump ball kind of guy. Good athleticism, nothing special though. But if he's making this much headlines early for his play and becoming a starter, I mean that's super promising.
Yeah. A couple of other things I'm just going to run through for the sake of time a little bit. Jalen Glover, part of an open competition at Utah. Tavion Thomas, most likely the bell cow there, but it's notable that, they're saying, hey, all these guys are performing. Trevante Citizen is getting early praise as a do-it-all guy. That's what we thought coming in as on his recruiting profile. Catches passes. He can do a lot of things. So that's good to hear. It's pretty stacked. At least there's a lot of talent in that running back room. I'm not sure if it'll be one guy, at least not this year. Wake Forest, I don't know who to throw it to. I think you guys both like these guys. I know I liked Claiborne. I think it's David really liked Wesley Grimes. Both guys are looking good at Wake Forest right away. David, you want to color in the lines here on these two guys?
Yeah, there's been a lot of rave reviews so far on Claiborne, just about how I think he might be the most explosive back on the roster already. And this was a guy that I'm pretty sure he had a 10.6 100-meter. Like he's really fast. I think we got him over 21 miles per hour. And he actually came in pretty dense, 5'9", 197, which is pretty good size, certainly for a freshman. So, he'll probably get to that 205, 208 area by the time he's done. So I like that for him. The big thing with Wake Forest running back seems like they have to be good at pass blocking. I don't know if that's why they scared away Kenneth Walker, what happened with that situation. But I think he'll get on the field a little bit as a freshman. And then Wesley Grimes had like a tough first day. I think he had a few drops, maybe some nerves. But since then, he's been tearing it up. I know he caught at least 2 bombs against some of the second teamers. And the beat writer for Wake Forest seems to think that he'll play as a freshman. So
awesome.
Stock up for those guys.
Yeah, Claiborne was on my 3-star kind of top 10 3-stars, although I think he gained a 4th star towards the end of the cycle. But he was a 3-star for a lot of the cycle, and I really liked him. I agree, very explosive. Matt, we'll throw this one to you. I know it's one of your guys, Savion Red, standing out already and maybe getting on the field as a punt returner, which we love early career special teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I could have really hoped for. I believe I did his write-up for the guide, and that's pretty much exactly what I said. Year one, the goal is, he could potentially be their starting punt returner. I was glad to hear he's had that kind of impact in camp. He's a little older for the class. He's, he's kind of a running back, wide receiver hybrid. But, if he's able to carve out some sort of role there, I think that's great.
Yeah, that'll definitely bode well for the future. Pretty studly guys. We already knew they were kind of studs. Burden, Evan Stewart seem to be locked in starters. And then everyone's favorite G5 receiver, Matthew Golden, already running as a starter for Houston. Golden could put up over 1,000 yards in year one. Depending on Nathaniel Dell's going to command targets, but he'll be productive. And then Burden and Stewart are in maybe less productive offenses, but obviously a huge deal to start as a freshman in the SEC. We got some injuries, sadly. Curtis Deville probably going to miss the whole season. I was really excited about him. I know David pointed him out, one of his guys early on. Back when he was a 3-star, I think he gained a 4th star towards the end of the cycle. And Jadarian Price, another one who's kind of David's guy because he goes to Notre Dame, had put on some weight, but then tore his Achilles, which very, very bad, long recovery. And we just don't really even know how people recover from Achilles just yet. One of our guys we highlighted in the 3-star show, AJ Allen for Nebraska. I was happy to see who pulled this one out of the news cycle. David, was it you?
Yeah, that's me confirming my biases, of course.
Yeah, tell us about AJ Allen because it's confirming mine too.
I just saw this little quote on their message boards. It said, and I don't know, it says Grant and Allen are the 2 most talented. Whipple is enamored with these guys, and yes, he wants to throw them the football. So basically, Allen's going to be using the passing game. I don't know how soon because they actually do have quite a few bodies in that backfield. But and then I saw some other comment about how his frame was actually better than they thought. So it sounds like I recently saw listened to an interview with AJ Allen, and he said he was 190 pounds, which is good for him because I was worried he was closer to 180. So it sounds like that 190 might be legit.
Yeah, and we liked his movement. I mean, he was 180. We kind of thought maybe really truly 175 or something, but that's fantastic if he's at 190. Two guys a lot of people at C2C liked: Cartavius Norton, Greg Gaines, making noise already at Iowa State camp. There are some people that think Norton could wind up being the starter this year in a pretty productive offense for running backs, as we've seen over the last 5 years. Let's take it to Texas A&M, where some pretty big paychecks probably written for these guys, and they're all hanging out around the third team. We got Connor Weigman, a 5-star quarterback, almost for sure third team. I don't know. You at least want to see him second team, and it's not like they have any really stars at quarterback, so that's a little bit eyebrow raising. Chris Marshall with the 3s and missing time with injury, not the end of the world, but also not great. I mean, we just went over a whole list of guys who are making waves early. It's notable when these star recruits are not doing that. And then Noah Thomas running with the 2s. People like his movement skills. He was a very good athlete from recruiting analytics. I wasn't thrilled with Noah Thomas myself, but running with the 2s is better than the 3s. I think it's more of that juxtaposition there with Marshall and Thomas. Okay, commits. Dylan Edwards. David, you got your guy. We talked about him last week. Commits to Notre Dame. Kind of maybe it's going to be used as a slot receiver. Very, very fast. Also very, very small. Big wide receiver guy, Matt, talk to us about Parker Jenkins. I didn't know about him until tonight, but he's a running back going to Houston.
Yeah, he's a really dynamic player. We clocked him at 21.2 miles per hour, which is very good. He's a really good receiver, which especially going into that whole just an offense, that's something you want to see out of the running back because they're going to be throwing it so much. He had 25% of his team's receiving market share last season. So great stuff.
Great.
A back I'm really excited about.
Very cool. Maybe he's the next big G5 riser for us. Shelton Sampson, David, going to LSU. You have someone wrote here, mystery 4.3 time. What's that about?
Yeah, apparently he ran a 4.3 at a camp or something. I don't know if it was electronic or not, but I think we filmed it on On3's website. So he's big and fast, a little bit raw, not very good production to this point, but he definitely has a high ceiling. So
yeah, I think I liked him and specifically called out his potential yak ability. You like to see that with these bigger guys who can really, not only jump ball, but also move with the ball in their hands. And then we have two guys we're not super high on, just reporting their commitments. Samuel Singleton, going to Florida State, but in a nutshell, he's kind of slow and kind of small. And has poor production. And then Justin Brown going to Mississippi State. I don't love guys in the air raid offense. I mean, I like him for fantasy. I don't love him for future production. And he's also a little bit slow. And I think you weren't thrilled with him, right, Matt?
No, he's not very exciting.
All right, gentlemen. That was a whirlwind. We got it done. We got everybody in. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next week. This has been The Official.
Thank you.